So, we've obviously just released today our latest forecast. We do these on a quarterly basis and we've been doing it for 25 years. So I think we tend to be one of the most quoted forecasts of ad spend. What we've shown today, we've done new forecasts for 2013 for this year and then the next 2 years as well. What we're seeing the market is growing. It's growing about 3.5% this year, and it's going to grow at about 5% for each of the following 2 years. So in these forecasts, we're actually seeing a marginal downgrade of 2013. So we're looking at about 3.9% growth down to 3.5%. And then the following 2 years, we've actually increased our forecast by 0.1 and 0.2%. So a couple of big factors here. One of them is what's happening with the continuing problems in the Eurozone. We've got the Eurozone will again be down this year. And the second thing is we've got this economic uncertainty in South Korea, and that's a market which is a top 10 market, and that's going to take about 1.3 billion out of our global ad spend. So those two things in combination are the reasons for the slight downgrade that we've got to 3.5% growth this year globally for 2013. Growth is coming from both geographies and different media types. So we're still seeing growth in North America. The North American consumer and the economy remain very robust. And indeed that's supported by the latest economic data coming out of in terms of jobs, in terms of housing, in terms of retail spending. We're also seeing growth in the fast-track Asia markets like India and China, very strong growth coming out of LATAM. So these markets are all growing in size and have an increasingly important factor on our global figures. So if you look over the next 2 or 3 years, a market like Brazil, which would have only just been in the top 20, will be comfortably a top 10 market within the next 3 years. So there's a real dynamism within our forecast and reflecting the strong growth in media type, in digital, in various different formats and also by geography. We're seeing that if you look at internet spend as a whole, that's growing at about 15% per annum globally. Display, digital is growing at about 20% on average for each of the next 3 years. Within those, the two most dynamic sectors are social and online video, and they're growing at about 30% per annum. So we see these two markets growing much faster. If you compare that for search, for example, search globally is growing at about 15%. So we actually see that the two particular categories now within the display digital category being two of the fastest growing in terms of social and video. Okay, so when you're talking about the digital landscape, there are 4 dominant players that everyone knows: Google, Yahoo, Facebook and Microsoft. And those 4 companies represent about 49 billion out of a 77 billion of ad spend that's generated. So they are very dominant players in terms that, and actually that concentrated expenditure in terms of ad expenditure are actually growing through those 4 big companies. In 5th place would be Twitter, but still some way behind those companies as it stands today. And within that, the most dominant player is Google, that would probably represent about 2/3 of the total revenue generated amongst those top 4 companies.
That's quite extraordinary about Twitter. Is that the first time they're listed on your ranking, or?
Yeah, it's just Twitter is coming. They're a much more nascent player, so there's still a big gap. It's growing. Its rate of growth is actually much higher than most of the other companies. It's just coming from a much newer and nascent position.
And they've made number 5.
They're number 5, yes.
Wow.